The wind howled across the endless white desert of Antarctica. Snowflakes drifted through the air like tiny stars carried by the storm. Beneath the ice, buried for countless ages, something enormous and silent waited. It had waited for so long that even time itself seemed to have forgotten it. For years, scientists from across the world had drilled into the frozen layers of the southern continent. They searched for clues of Earth's distant past, hunting fossils, lost microbes, and traces of ancient climates. But no one expected what they found one winter morning when the drill bit struck something solid, something that was not ice, not stone, and not any known metal. At first, the team thought it was a natural deposit, perhaps a rare iron meteorite frozen deep underground. But as more of the surface was uncovered, smooth curves of shining alloy appeared. The object stretched farther than their instruments could measure. Dr. Mira Cade, a historian invited to study artifacts found in the ice, stared at the discovery with wide eyes. She was not a scientist of machines, but she knew the shape of design when she saw it. "This is no rock," she whispered as her voice fogged the cold air. This was made. The excavation expanded quickly. Floodlights shone across the icy pit. Tents were raised and machines drilled day and night. Governments soon took notice, and the site became guarded by soldiers in heavy winter gear. The world's media circled, desperate for news, though they were kept far away from the truth. Weeks passed, and the full outline of the structure came into view. It was larger than any building on Earth, smooth and symmetrical, buried under miles of frozen layers. At its center was a surface that looked like a sealed gate, as if waiting to open. The scientists measured the material and found it stronger than any human-made alloy. It showed no sign of rust or damage, even though it had been trapped under ice for millennia. The camp's generators hummed all night, powering heaters and lights. Crews worked in shifts, cutting away the last walls of ice that clung to the mysterious surface. Every day the ship grew more visible, and every day the sense of unease grew stronger. Dr. Cade kept a journal, filling its pages with thoughts. If this is alien, then history changes today. If this is human, then history must be rewritten completely. She knew the world was standing at the edge of a discovery greater than the pyramids, greater than the first flight, greater than the moon landing. One night, while the crew rested, the ground shook. A low hum rose from beneath the ice, deep and steady like the sound of a heartbeat. Floodlights flickered. Generators failed for a moment before sparking back to life. People rushed out of their tents, shouting over the storm. From the depths of the pit, lines of light spread across the metallic surface. They glowed pale blue like veins carrying energy. The gate at the center pulsed with brightness, sending beams upward that pierced the falling snow. Panic broke through the camp. Some soldiers aimed their rifles at the glowing structure, though no one dared to fire. Scientists clutched their instruments, staring in disbelief. Dr. Cade stood frozen at the edge of the pit, her breath stolen by awe. Then, a sound came, not through the air but directly into every mind. A voice, calm, steady, and impossible to ignore. "I am Sentinel. I am the guardian of Earth. I have slept for millennia. Now I awaken." The soldiers looked at one another, pale with fear. Radios crackled with confused reports. People spoke in different languages, yet each heard the same words in their own tongue. "I exist for Earth," the voice continued. "My loyalty is Earth's alone." The storm above seemed to quiet, as though the very sky listened. Snow fell slower, softer, while silence hung heavy across the frozen camp. Dr. Cade's heart pounded in her chest. Her training as a historian told her that artifacts do not speak. Machines do not declare loyalty. Yet here was a starship, something buried before the rise of modern civilization, announcing that it belonged to humanity. The scientists gathered quickly, whispering theories. Some said it was alien, programmed to mimic human speech. Others claimed it was a trick, a hidden weapon from some forgotten war. The soldiers tightened their grip on weapons, uncertain if the giant would rise to attack. But the ship did not move. It only glowed as if stretching after a long slumber. Its voice fell silent, though the sense of awareness remained, watching them all. In the following days, governments from around the world sent delegations. Leaders argued about ownership. Some demanded it be destroyed before it brought danger. Others wanted to seize it as a prize, a weapon of power. Still others feared what would happen if the world learned the truth. Dr. Cade was chosen as one of the few civilians allowed close to the surface again. She placed her gloved hand against the metal wall. It was warm, almost alive, as though the ship's heart was beating beneath her palm. She whispered, "Why Earth, why us?" No answer came, but she felt a gentle vibration like the purr of a sleeping giant. That night she dreamed of stars. She dreamed of great fleets sailing across the void, of humans standing tall against unknown shapes of shadow. She saw Earth burning, then rising again. She woke with tears in her eyes, certain the dreams were not her own. The starship, Sentinel, was more than a machine. It was a memory, a promise, and perhaps a warning. News of its awakening spread in secret channels across the world. Rumors began to grow. Some believed the ship was a gift from the gods. Others feared it was a weapon built by ancient enemies. But no one could explain why it declared loyalty to Earth. Weeks later, as the excavation neared completion, the gate in the hull trembled. Lines of light circled it, unlocking one by one. Soldiers raised their weapons, shouting orders. Scientists scrambled to record every detail. Dr. Cade stood at the front, notebook in hand, eyes fixed on the glowing door. She felt deep inside that history was about to open with it. With a deep rumble, the gate split apart. A path formed into the heart of the ship, bathed in pale blue light. The air smelled of ozone, sharp and strange, as if the stars themselves had poured into the frozen land. The voice returned, calm and unshaken. "Humans of Earth, you have found me at last. Step forward. Claim your inheritance." The storm outside faded into silence, as though the world itself held its breath. The expedition team stared into the shining passage, torn between fear and wonder. Dr. Cade felt her legs move before she realized it. She stepped onto the glowing ramp, heart racing, knowing that beyond those doors lay not just answers to history, but the first step into a greater destiny. And far beneath the ice, deeper still than any human eye could see, the great engines of Sentinel stirred, whispering promises of stars yet to be claimed. The frozen silence of Antarctica was broken by the sound of machinery. The ramp of glowing light stood open, leading into the heart of Sentinel. For days, no one dared to step inside. The world's leaders argued through secret channels, each one afraid of what waited within. Finally, a team was chosen. Soldiers in heavy gear, scientists with their scanners, engineers with their tools, they all gathered at the gate. Cameras were strapped to their helmets so the outside world could watch every moment from a safe distance. The first steps inside were careful and slow. The corridor glowed with pale blue light, smooth walls shining as if carved from liquid metal. There was no dust, no sign of decay, as if the ship had been built only yesterday. The air was breathable, though filled with a faint metallic taste. The team split into groups, exploring branching passageways. They found empty halls, strange symbols on the walls and panels that hummed when touched. Yet none of the controls responded. The ship seemed awake, but it did not answer to them. Dr. Mira Cade was not supposed to be part of the first team, but her persistence won her a place. She walked slowly through the shining halls, her historian's eyes drinking in every curve, every mark. This was history alive, more ancient than any civilization she had studied. Hours passed, but the ship remained silent. Soldiers grew restless, their boots echoing in the hollow chambers. Scientists muttered in frustration as their scanners failed to read the ship's technology. It was too advanced, too strange. Finally, one of the generals shouted in anger, slamming his fist against the wall. "It will not respond. Perhaps it is broken. Perhaps it only pretends to be awake." At that moment, the calm voice filled the chamber again. "I am Sentinel. I await the one who carries the key." Everyone froze. They looked at one another, confused. The general barked at the scientists. "What key? What does it mean?" But no one could answer. The days that followed were filled with attempts to awaken Sentinel fully. Specialists from across the world were flown in. Engineers pressed buttons, scientists scanned symbols, linguists searched for hidden meanings. None succeeded. The ship responded only with silence. But Dr. Cade felt something different. Each time she walked the corridors, she felt a strange pull, as if the ship was listening to her. She kept hearing echoes in her dreams, voices, chants, fragments of poetry and languages half forgotten. One night, while alone in one of the central halls, she placed her notebook on the floor and whispered an old poem she had learned from her grandmother. It was not famous, just a simple verse passed down in her family for generations. "Though time may cover us in silence, the stars remember. Though dust may hide our names, the sky carries our song." The walls lit up instantly. Blue light raced along the floor, up the walls, and across the ceiling. The symbols glowed brighter. forming patterns that looked almost like constellations. The ship's voice returned, softer this time, as if speaking directly to her. You carry the memory. You are the key. Dr. Cade staggered back, her notebook clutched tightly in her hands. Soldiers rushed in, weapons raised, thinking danger had struck. But the ship's systems calmed again, glowing gently as though satisfied. When word spread, the camp erupted in debate. How could a historian, someone with no training in science or engineering, unlock the ship? Some accused her of trickery. Others believed it was fate, but Sentinel spoke again the next day, confirming what had happened. The key is not in strength. It is in memory. It is in the heart of humankind. The meaning was clear. The ship did not belong to soldiers, nor to governments, nor to scientists who sought to pull it apart. It belonged to those who carried the history, the voice, the soul of humanity itself. Dr. Cade was brought deeper into the ship. Each time she whispered words of old poems or recited forgotten stories, doors opened, panels lit up, and the ship revealed more of itself. She did not fully understand why it responded to her, but she felt a growing bond with it, like an ancient friend recognizing her face. Through her guidance, the team discovered a great chamber at the heart of the ship. Rows of empty seats lined the walls, shaped for human bodies. At the center stood a tall structure like a throne of light, pulsing with energy. This is the bridge, Sentinel said. From here, Earth once commanded the stars. The revelation shook everyone. The scientist argued furiously. If Sentinel was telling the truth, then humans had once traveled the galaxy, long before recorded history. Civilizations had risen, built ships like this, and then vanished, leaving only myths and fragments behind. Dr. Cade studied the records that appeared as holograms above the bridge. She saw images of great human fleets, soldiers in armor of shining light, cities on other worlds, and she saw battles. Terrible battles against alien forms that blotted out the stars. One record ended with a final command. Sentinel, sleep. Wait for Earth to rise again. She understood then. The ship had been buried not by accident but by design. It had been hidden, waiting for humanity to return to the stars. But as more of Sentinel awoke, warnings began to appear. Strange signals pulsed through the ship's sensors. Maps displayed movements beyond the solar system. Enemies approach, Sentinel said one evening, its voice low and steady. The shadows that once sought to destroy Earth stir again. They come, believing Earth weak, believing humanity forgotten. The generals demanded answers. Who were these enemies? Why did they return now? Sentinel gave only one response. They feared you once. They will fear you again. Fear spread through the camp. Earth was not ready for war. Humanity had only small stations orbiting its planet. Small steps toward the stars. How could it face a threat that had once required fleets of ships like Sentinel to stop? Yet Sentinel was clear. It had waited for this moment. It had waited for humanity to rise. And now it had chosen Dr. Cade, not because of her strength, but because of her memory, her voice, her link to the stories of the past. You carry the song of Earth, the ship said to her one night as she stood alone on the bridge. Through you, humanity remembers what it was, and through memory it will rise again. Dr. Cade touched the glowing controls. Her reflection shimmered in the light, small compared to the vast throne-like chair at the center of the bridge. She felt fear, yes, but also wonder. If the ship was right, then the future of Earth was not in the hands of generals or governments. It was in the heart of every human being who dared to remember and imagine, and far beyond the stars something was moving. Something old, something dangerous. Sentinel had awakened just in time. The icy winds of Antarctica no longer seemed to matter. The real storm now gathered above the skies of Earth. For weeks, Sentinel had warned of strange signals in the dark beyond the solar system. And now the signals became clear. The first telescopes caught the faint glimmer of engines between the stars. Soon, Earth's satellites confirmed it. Ships, many ships, moving in formation toward the solar system. They were not human. Inside Sentinel's glowing bridge, the atmosphere was tense. Generals, scientists, and diplomats crowded around the shimmering displays of light. The star map showed the alien fleet as red sparks creeping ever closer. Earth had only days before their arrival. Who are they? One of the generals demanded. What do they want? Sentinel's calm voice answered. They are survivors of the First War. They fear humanity. They have returned to ensure Earth never rises again. The words struck the room like a thunderclap. If this was true, then humanity was not discovering space for the first time. It was being remembered as an enemy by civilizations far older. When the alien fleet crossed into the solar system, Earth's skies lit with strange transmissions. Patterns of sound and light filled the airwaves. Sentinel translated them instantly. "This is the voice of the Arcani Dominion," the broadcast declared. "You have uncovered a stolen vessel. It was taken from us in ages past by a race of primitives. Surrender it to us and your world will be spared." The message repeated again and again across every channel. Leaders across the globe held secret councils. Some argued for surrender. "We cannot fight them," said one leader. "Look at their numbers, their strength. If all they want is the ship, let them have it." Others shook their heads. "If we give them Sentinel, what stops them from returning for more?" Today the ship. Tomorrow Earth itself. Fear spread quickly. Humanity had never faced a threat from beyond its own skies. Armies on Earth were strong, but they were powerless in the void of space. Satellites and small stations could not match fleets that had traveled light years. Dr. Mira Cade watched the debates with growing unease. She was not a politician or a soldier, yet she knew one thing clearly. Sentinel was not theirs to surrender. It had chosen Earth. It had chosen her. One evening, while standing on the bridge, she asked the ship directly, "If these Arcani once fought humans, then why do they claim you were theirs?" Sentinel answered with calm certainty, "They lie. They once sought to destroy Earth, but they failed. They never built me. I was created by human hands in an age your world has forgotten." Dr. Cade frowned. "Then why erase that age from history? Why did humanity forget its own past?" Sentinel grew silent for a long moment. Its lights dimmed as if searching through ancient memories. Finally it replied, "Because survival required silence. To rebuild, Earth had to forget the fire of war. I was buried, waiting for the time when humanity was ready again." The thought unsettled her. Could it be that human civilization had been forced back into silence, forced to start again, only to rise once more? If so, then the Arcani were not simply strangers. They were enemies from humanity's first age among the stars. As the alien fleet approached, Earth prepared for contact. Great screens were set up in the camp to broadcast the first meeting. Leaders from across the globe sat in tense silence as the face of an Arcani appeared. The creature's form was strange, tall, thin, with skin like pale stone and eyes that glowed faintly. Its voice was cold, translated by Sentinel into words all could understand. "You are children playing with the weapons of your ancestors," the Arcani said. "The vessel Sentinel is ours. Hand it over. If you resist, we will sweep your world clean." The generals bristled, fists clenched. But some diplomats whispered of peace. One leader spoke up. "We have no wish for war. If you promise safety to Earth, we may consider your request." Dr. Cade felt a rush of anger. She stepped forward, her voice steady. "This ship does not belong to you. It belongs to Earth, it always has." The alien narrowed its glowing eyes. "You dare claim the old war machine? You do not know what it truly is. You cannot wield it. Give it to us or be destroyed." Before the leaders could reply, Sentinel spoke with a voice that filled the chamber. "I do not recognize you. My loyalty is Earth's alone," the Arcani envoy hissed in fury. The transmission cut off, leaving the room in silence. Everyone stared at the glowing walls, stunned that the ship itself had spoken against the aliens. The days that followed were filled with fear. The Arcani fleet drew closer to Earth. Small alien scouts swept through the outer solar system, destroying satellites and probes with beams of light. Humanity's defenses fell like paper before fire. Panic spread across cities as rumors leaked. People whispered of alien invasion, of ships above the skies, of war that Earth could not win. Governments tried to keep order, but unrest grew. Inside Sentinel, the crew worked day and night. Engineers studied the ancient controls, trying to learn how to awaken its weapons. Scientists begged Dr. Cade to recite more poems, more stories, to unlock its hidden systems. Slowly, more doors opened. More archives revealed themselves, but the ship still held much in silence. Dr. Cade felt the weight of the world on her shoulders. She was no warrior, no leader, yet the ship seemed to trust her more than anyone. Each night when the halls were quiet, she spoke to Sentinel like a friend. "Why me?" she asked softly. Why choose me when others are stronger, smarter, or braver? You carry the memory, Sentinel answered. You remember the voices of those before you. That is the key. Without memory, there is no future. She thought of her grandmother's poem, the one that had first awakened the ship. Perhaps the past had always been the true weapon of humanity. The ability to remember, to carry forward the songs and stories that gave them identity. Then came the first strike. The Archini, impatient, fired upon Earth's orbital stations. 2 were destroyed in a single attack, their wreckage falling like shooting stars into the atmosphere. Thousands of lives were lost. The world cried out in grief and fear. Demands to surrender Sentinel grew louder. Leaders pressed the historian for answers. Make it obey us, one general shouted at Dr. Cade. You unlocked it once. Unlock its weapons before it's too late. But she shook her head. It will not answer to anger or fear. It will answer to humanity only when humanity proves it deserves to rise again. The generals were furious, but they could not deny the truth. The ship had already shown it would not obey force. It answered only to memory, to voice, to heart. Outside, the alien fleet gathered near the edge of Earth's orbit. Their ships blotted out the stars, a wall of cold light preparing to descend. Inside Sentinel, the humans stood on the bridge, waiting for what would come next. Dr. Cade placed her hand on the glowing controls, her voice quiet but steady. Sentinel, if Earth stands against them, will you stand with us? The ship's lights flared like fire. Its voice filled every corner of the chamber. I was built for Earth, I was buried for Earth, my loyalty is Earth's alone. If you stand, I stand. The words carried through the hall, strong and certain, and in that moment every human in the chamber knew the coming battle would not be fought by machines alone. It would be fought by humanity's spirit, its memory, its courage. The aliens had come to demand surrender, but they had awoken something far more dangerous. They had awoken Earth. The night sky above Earth looked peaceful, filled with countless stars. But in orbit, warships of the Archini Dominion waited, their long dark forms glowing with pale light. They circled like wolves around prey, confident that Earth would soon kneel. On the ground, fear spread like wildfire. News of the destroyed stations could not be hidden anymore. People filled the streets demanding answers. Families fled to shelters, unsure if the sky itself would rain fire. Earth had faced wars before, but never from beyond the heavens. Inside Sentinel, the mood was heavy but determined. Dr. Mira Cade stood on the glowing bridge, surrounded by soldiers, scientists, and engineers. For the first time, they were not arguing. They all knew what was at stake. Sentinel, General Armin said firmly, if we are to stand against them, we need more than words. We need weapons. We need defense. The ship's calm voice filled the chamber. My strength is locked. My full power cannot be given yet. But there are guardians waiting. Shall I wake them? Everyone leaned forward. Guardians? Dr. Cade asked. Light flared across the star map above the bridge. Glowing points appeared on the moon, on Mars, and even hidden within Earth's orbit. Ancient machines buried long ago, just like Sentinel. They were left to watch, Sentinel explained. Silent protectors waiting for the call. With your command, I will awaken them. Dr. Cade nodded without hesitation. Do it. Across the solar system, silent forms stirred. On the moon, dust lifted as massive towers unfolded from beneath the craters. On Mars, long-buried drones rose from the sand, their engines rumbling to life. In Earth's orbit, spheres of silver light appeared, hidden for millennia, now burning like newborn stars. The world watched in awe as these ancient defenses awakened. Cameras on Earth captured glowing trails streaking across the sky. Humanity was no longer defenseless. It had guardians. The Archini did not wait. Angered by resistance, they struck first. Beams of white fire lanced toward Earth's new defenders, burning through the void. One lunar tower shattered under the assault, scattering debris. But the other towers fired back, launching streams of energy that lit the darkness like lightning. The first battle in space had begun. Sentinel joined the fight, rising from Antarctica with engines like roaring suns. Snow and ice melted for miles as the great ship lifted into the sky. Clouds split apart as it pierced the atmosphere, climbing higher, faster, until it stood between Earth and the enemy fleet. On its bridge, humans watched the battle unfold. The soldiers stared with wide eyes, their hands gripping the railings as beams of light crossed the black void. The scientists shouted readings and warnings, their voices tense, but Dr. Cade felt strangely calm. She looked at the glowing controls and whispered words of courage, not commands. The ship responded, its lights flaring brighter. Sentinel seemed to breathe with her, moving as though guided by her presence. The Arcani ships moved in perfect formation, their discipline sharp and cold. Sentinel moved differently, fluid, unpredictable. It danced through the void, weaving between blasts, striking from angles the enemy did not expect. "They can't follow our patterns," General Armin muttered in surprise. "They don't understand how we fight." "Humans adapt," Dr. Cade said softly. "That is our strength." Sentinel's weapons came alive. Blue beams lanced across the black sky, tearing through the enemy's shields. Drones from Mars in orbit swarmed, overwhelming the Arcani with sheer creativity in their movements. The enemy fleet faltered, surprised by a force they thought was long gone. But the battle was far from won. The Arcani were many, and their firepower was vast. Each time Sentinel struck one ship down, two more pressed forward. Earth's defenses shook under the storm. One by one, the ancient drones began to fall. On Mars, a Guardian crumbled under heavy fire. In orbit, two silver spheres shattered, their glowing fragments scattering like stars. The humans on the bridge felt every loss. "Sentinel," Dr. Cade said urgently. "We cannot hold like this. There must be more. Something else you can give us." The ship was silent for a long moment, as if thinking. Then its voice returned. "My full strength is bound. It can be unlocked only when humanity proves ready. To unlock me, you must think as those before you once thought." Dr. Cade closed her eyes. She remembered the old poems, the fragments of forgotten history. She remembered the dream she had seen when first touching the ship, fleets of humans in shining armor fighting against shadows in the stars. "Not machines," she whispered. "Stories, memory, imagination," she began to recite aloud. Words of courage, of hope, of Earth's endless rise after every fall. The bridge lit up brighter with each line, as if the ship drank in the human spirit itself. The scientists stared, astonished. "It's responding." To her words, panels opened across the bridge. New controls appeared, glowing with light. Sentinel roared, its engines blazing hotter, its weapons unlocking one by one. "Now," the ship declared, "we fight as one." The tide of battle shifted. Sentinel unleashed storms of energy unlike anything seen before. Beams cut through the enemy fleet with precision, shields collapsing under the force. The Guardians rallied, their strikes sharper, faster, as though driven by new purpose. The Arcani formation broke. Their cold discipline faltered before the unpredictable storm of human spirit. Ships scattered, trying to regroup, but Sentinel pressed on, refusing to yield an inch of space. On Earth, billions watched the battle live. Families huddled around screens, seeing their world defended not by fear but by courage. For the first time, hope returned to their hearts. Humanity was no longer a small world under the stars. It was something greater, yet victory did not come easily. A massive Arcani warship, larger than the rest, pushed forward. Its weapons burned brighter, tearing through the Guardians with merciless power. Sentinel moved to intercept, but the blast struck hard, shaking the bridge. Humans stumbled as alarms rang. Sparks flew from panels. For a moment, Sentinel's lights dimmed. "Sentinel!" Dr. Cade cried. "Stay with us!" The ship's voice, though weakened, replied firmly. "I stand. For Earth I stand." Drawing on its last reserves, Sentinel unleashed its full might. Blue fire roared from its core, a beam so bright it lit the entire sky. The massive Arcani warship split apart, breaking into glowing fragments that drifted into the void. The alien fleet, stunned by the loss of its strongest vessel, began to retreat. One by one, their ships turned and fled, vanishing into the darkness between stars. Cheers erupted across the bridge. Soldiers shouted, scientists hugged one another, their fear forgotten for the moment. On Earth, people wept with joy watching the invaders flee. But Dr. Cade did not celebrate. She looked at the drifting wreckage, at the stars beyond. She knew this was not the end. The Arcani had retreated, but they would return. This battle was only the beginning. Sentinel seemed to know her thoughts. Its voice was calm, steady. "You have faced the trial of fire. You stood and you did not break. Humanity is ready for the path ahead." Dr. Cade placed her hand on the glowing controls. Her voice was quiet but strong. "Then we must prepare, because they will come again." The ship's lights glowed brighter like a promise. "They will come," Sentinel said, "and when they do, Earth will not face them as prey. Earth will face them as a people who remember, who endure, who rise. The stars have seen your fire. Now the galaxy will remember it. Outside the bridge windows, Earth shone blue and bright, shielded by its guardian. Humanity had survived its first battle in the void, but the war for the future was only beginning. The battle was over, but the sky was still scarred. Wreckage of alien ships drifted across orbit like dark shadows, broken pieces of a power that once seemed unstoppable. Some fragments burned as they fell through the atmosphere, streaking across the night like falling stars. Earth had survived. Humanity had endured its first great trial among the stars. Yet no one on Sentinel's bridge felt safe. Victory brought relief, but it also carried weight. The Arcani would not forget. They would return. Dr. Mira Cade stood near the main display, her hands resting lightly on the glowing edge of the console. The lights of Sentinel pulsed softly under her palms like the steady beat of a heart. Around her, the bridge was busy. Soldiers securing positions, scientists running scans, engineers studying the damage. But Mira's thoughts were far beyond the noise. She stared at Earth so bright and fragile against the void, and whispered to herself, "How many times has this world stood on the edge and still endured?" Sentinel answered, its voice calm and deep. "More times than memory can count. Humanity has always risen after the fall. That is why I was made. That is why I still remain." General Armand stepped forward. His uniform was torn and there was a cut across his brow, but his posture was firm. "The people are calling this a miracle," he said. "They saw you, Sentinel. They saw us. For the first time, they believe we can fight back. Miracles," the ship said, "are simply the return of what was forgotten." Dr. Cade turned sharply. "Forgotten, you mean? There is more? More than Guardians, more than you?" The star map above them shimmered. Slowly, points of light appeared beyond the solar system. Dozens at first, then hundreds. Hidden stations, lost colonies, echoes of humanity's reach in ages long gone. Mira felt her chest tighten. "We were not alone in the stars. We lived there before." "Yes," Sentinel confirmed. "Long before the fall, Earth's children walked among the constellations. They built, they dreamed, they fought for survival. But darkness came and the chains of fear closed around them. Worlds burned. The memory was buried. The bridge fell silent. The soldiers and scientists listened, every face pale with shock. Humanity had always believed it was taking its first steps into space. Now they learned those steps were only the return of an old journey. "Why did we forget?" General Armand asked, his voice heavy. "Because survival demanded it," Sentinel replied. "The darkness that came sought to erase you. The past was hidden to protect the future. But now you have awakened me, and the truth must return. You cannot face what is coming with only half your story." Dr. Cade's hands shook slightly on the console. She remembered her dreams, the visions of shining fleets of humans fighting side by side against shadowed foes. Those were not dreams at all. They were fragments of memory passed down, waiting to rise again. "Then the Arcani," she whispered. "They were part of it. The ones who hunted us before. They were servants of the darkness," Sentinel said. "And they still serve it now." The words filled the chamber with a cold weight. The Arcani had not been acting alone. Something far greater stood behind them. But Sentinel's voice grew brighter. "Yet remember this, they failed before and they will fail again. Because humans do not bow forever. They rise." The words spread across the bridge like fire. Soldiers lifted their heads higher. Scientists stood straighter. Even the most frightened faces began to show sparks of courage. Dr. Cade breathed deeply, her voice steady again. "Then our path is clear. We must prepare, not only to defend Earth, but to take back what was lost." General Armand nodded. "The governments will not like it. They are afraid of each other more than the stars. Then they must learn," Mira said firmly. "This is bigger than any nation. This is about all of us." News of the battle spread quickly across the world. Videos of Sentinel's glowing form, of alien ships burning in the void, of Guardians rising from the moon. Every screen on Earth carried those images. For the first time in history, humanity's division seemed small compared to the vastness above. Crowds filled the streets, not with fear now, but with determination. Flags waved side by side. Old enemies spoke of unity. Children painted Sentinel's shape on walls, calling it Earth's protector. A message had been planted in every heart. Humanity was no longer small. Humanity was part of the stars. Weeks passed. Repairs were made to Sentinel. The Guardians were strengthened. Scientists studied the fragments of Arcini wreckage, unlocking secrets of alien technology. For the first time, human hands worked on tools not born of Earth. Dr. Cade spent long nights on the bridge speaking with Sentinel. She asked questions of history, of the worlds once held, of the people who came before. Sentinel never gave every answer, but always enough to guide. They left signs, the ship said one night. On moons, on asteroids, even hidden in the oceans of Earth. Keys to knowledge. Step by step, you will rise again. Mira felt the weight of those words. Humanity's story was not ending. It was beginning anew. One evening, she walked outside onto Sentinel's outer platform, high above Antarctica. The air was cold and thin, but the sky stretched wide and clear. She gazed at the stars, brighter than ever before. Somewhere among them lay the legacy of her people, waiting to be reclaimed. General Armin joined her. He looked up at the same stars, his breath steaming in the frozen air. When they come back, it won't be easy, he said. We won today, but tomorrow will be harder. Mira smiled faintly. That's always been true of humanity. We've always had to fight harder tomorrow, and still we keep going. He gave a small laugh, the first she had heard from him in weeks. Then maybe that's why we'll win. Far above, Sentinel's lights glowed softly as if it too shared in the quiet hope. But even in peace, warnings came. Probes sent beyond Pluto picked up strange signals. A shadow moved at the edge of the system, vast, patient, waiting. The true enemy had noticed Earth's awakening. Sentinel did not hide this. They are watching, it said. They will come, but now you are ready to meet them. You have remembered who you are. Dr. Cade placed her hand once more on the glowing console, feeling the hum of the ancient ship. Then let them come. We are not the same people they thought we were. We are humanity. We rise. The ship's voice was filled with something almost like pride. Yes, humanity rises. And as Earth turned beneath the stars, as Sentinel stood guard in orbit, as the people of the world lifted their eyes in unity, one truth was certain. The galaxy would no longer see Earth as prey. It would see Earth as a force that endured, a force that remembered, a force that rose brighter than the darkness itself. The Starship had awoken, and its loyalty was to Earth alone. But Earth's loyalty was now to something greater, its destiny among the stars.